12 days after a giant plume of toxic gas was released over their town, the residents of East Palestine, Ohio have been given the all clear to return to their homes. But they're not convinced it's safe.
Can we wash our dishes? Can we wash our clothes? Can we hang them outside?
The governor of the US state of Ohio has warned residents living near the site of a toxic train derailment to drink bottled water.
One hazardous materials specialist told WKBN, quote, "We basically nuked a town with chemicals so we could get a railroad open."
How insane is that quote? Now, I'm no follower of conspiracies, but it's never a good sign when the government is releasing chemicals into the air. As I'm sure many of you are aware, there is an ongoing disaster, and I use that word lightly, in Ohio at the moment. People are being forced to leave their homes in the very aptly named town of East Palestine. Now, you might have already heard this story before, and you might have thought it was quite simple. A train derails, chemicals get released into the air, they burn them, clean it up, and go home. However, when I was looking into what happened, I found that there are so many more layers that we need to unpack, such as how the company running the train were actually aware that the train was faulty, or how a leaked memo shows that the CEO of the company actually lobbied against safety regulations that potentially could have stopped the whole thing from happening. But before we look at the events that unfolded just a week ago, I want to take you back to August last year when Netflix released this film. Now, in case you didn't quite catch that, that was the film White Noise, and I'm going to run you through the synopsis real quick. So, White Noise is a film about a train derailment that leads to a chemical leak, causing a large black cloud to appear over a small town in Ohio, and everybody has to evacuate. And no, before you ask, I haven't got my notes mixed up. That's genuinely the narrative of the film, and the similarities between that and what's going on right now are mental. When they say that life imitates art, they meant literally. So please, nobody make any films about disasters in London, okay? So 9 AM on February 3rd, a train derails just outside of East Palestine containing 11 cars full of hazardous material. Now, they've actually recently released the manifest of what the train was carrying, and I'm not going to go through every single item, but I'll give you the main important one. So the train was carrying vinyl chloride, and just to give you an idea of the severity of this situation, the first thing that comes up when you Google vinyl chloride is an article by cancer.gov with a list of carcinogenic substances, which it is on. Now, that is enough to worry anybody already, but the main issue here was the fact that vinyl chloride also has a very low boiling point at only 7 Fahrenheit. So of course, town officials don't want anybody to get hurt by these toxic chemicals, so they issue an evacuation order of a 1-mile radius around the site, which is the whole town. It's a very, very small town in Ohio, so the 1-mile radius is quite literally the entire place. February 4th, the day after the incident, a hazmat team arrives on site and declares everything is fine. There's no chemicals in the air, and the only thing wrong with the water is the fact that it's all being used to put out the train fire. However, as I said earlier, it's only recently become public knowledge of what the train was actually carrying. So it's the same day the hazmat team arrives that the mayor issues a state of emergency and says that vinyl chloride is burning on that train. Firefighters were tackling the fire non-stop for 2 days before being faced with an incredibly hard decision. Because of vinyl chloride's low boiling point, the chance for a catastrophic explosion was high. So they had to choose. They either continue putting out this fire as they are and risk it all blowing up in their faces and potentially causing an even bigger issue than they're already dealing with, or perform a controlled release and burn off the chemicals that way. So on February 6th, after ensuring that all residents were either in a safe place or far, far away from town, a hole was cut into each of the tanks. The chemicals were then drained into a pit and set alight. Now, you might have already seen the videos and the photos of the fire. People were sharing videos of this massive black cloud over the sky in Ohio. Somebody was on a plane and they filmed it from overhead. The news coverage around the incident was sparse. There just wasn't any. Even when I looked to research for this video, there were only about 3 or 4 news stations covering it. But when you look at these photos, it feels like something out of an apocalyptic film. White noise. But 2 days later, after performing the burn, the fire is finally put out and residents are told that they are allowed to come home. However, due to a lack of information and sort of knowledge on what's even going on, many were reluctant to do so. All these people knew was a train has crashed in their town, chemicals were released and burned into the air and potentially into the water, and now they're being told they can come home. The official standing at the moment is that everything is fine, the air is clear, the water is safe to drink. But now that we know what's happened, let's talk about what really happened. So on February 1st, 2 days before the incident, the same train breaks down. According to rail workers, there were lots of concerns about the train's excessive length and weight. And of course, in the eyes of a company man, long train equal more stuff equal more money. However, for rail workers who are already at war with the government over low wages, this would mean an even more difficult job running the train and just keeping it stable. They want to reduce the costs in order to make more profit, but by doing so, they drastically increase the risk, as we can evidently see. But hey, maybe it was just a mistake. Maybe they had no idea about any of the safety issues. I'm sure they're absolutely on top of their safety. I'm sure a self-respecting company like this prides themselves on the safety of their trains and rail networks. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret here. They don't give a fuck. So 3 months ago, the CEO of Norfolk Southern, the company that was running the train line, met with Pete Buttigieg, which I think I have absolutely botched the pronunciation, so I'm sorry, mate, but he's the Transportation Secretary for the United States government. For the most part, the meeting was about investing money back into the rail network, with Shaw, the CEO, saying that the railroad was a climate-friendly alternative to trucks. However, in this memo that was leaked, it seems that there were some other topics that weren't mentioned. Shaw used this time with Pete to also bring up his concerns about the minimum crew requirements. Shaw said that regulations stating that trains need minimum 2 workers were completely unnecessary. So yeah, they were very on top of their safety. And by very on top of their safety, of course, I mean very good at finding loopholes and paying people so they don't have to be safe. All the way back in 2017, Norfolk Southern writes a 23-page submission to the government stating what rules they want to get removed and why. And I'm assuming there was a secret 24th page, which was a massive wad of cash. The main rules they were upset about were, of course, the minimum crew requirements, but also a law meaning that they would have to use better braking technology on trains carrying hazardous chemical substances. You know, like vinyl chloride. But right now, a whole community is reeling because of a tragedy that potentially could have been solved. People are returning to their homes and stating that they've started to feel dizzy, they've had rashes, they've started to get itchy all over. They say that fish are dying in the lakes and the rivers, and people's pets and farm animals are becoming sick. This one woman said that after the incident, she came out to find all of her chickens dead.
I'm beyond upset and quite panicked. Because they may be just chickens, but they're family.
The situation is far from over, and unfortunately, I don't think we've seen the worst of it. As time goes on and more information gets released, I fear that it's only going to become more serious. But anyway, if you feel that you are in a position where you can potentially help out, then I will link below some fundraisers that I've found to support the people in East Palestine. Other than that, I won't say that I hope you enjoyed the video because this incident is absolutely tragic. But if you you are still watching, then please comment your thoughts down below, because I'm interested to see what everybody else thinks about what's going on. And if you're doing that already, then you may as well like and you may as well subscribe if you're feeling up to it. But other than that, see ya.